This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the Kindle Touch. This is their 4th generation e-ink reader and the first one with touch for Amazon. You can tell if you've looked at our review of the Kindle 4th edition, whatever we're supposed to call that now, that's the $79 one if you get it with offers, that, well, it looks an awful lot alike. You've got the basic gray bezel here, interesting stylized home button, which actually has a nice tactile feel, and a basic silver gray kind of back. Not the most exciting design, certainly compared to the Kindle keyboard that preceded it, which really was pretty cool looking in its time, but hey, it gets the job done. We've got speaker grills back here. Yes, this actually has a speaker. Versus the $79 non-touch model, this guy has a lot more features, and for a $20 price difference, I would recommend this. Here's your power button, your 3.5mm stereo headphone jack, and your micro USB port. And that's pretty much it. There are no hardware page turn buttons, bummer. And there aren't many hardware controls, well, because basically it's just an e-reader. There's not much that you need to control here, and just about everything you need to do you're going to be doing using the touch screen. And the good news and the bad news is this looks pretty much like every other Kindle in terms of user interface. It's good because it's familiar. If you've been using Kindles for years, you're not particularly techy, you don't want to learn something new, well, you take a look at that and it's text-based and quite simple. The bad news is, gee, now that it has a touchscreen, they could have done a whole lot with the user interface. If you take a look at the Barnes & Noble Nook Touch with its really friendly graphical interface, and the Sony Reader PRS-T1 make great use of the touchscreen and the graphical possibilities that are there. This really kind of feels like they maybe rushed it a little bit and they just said, hey, let's glom a touchscreen onto our usual Kindle. So you don't get any book covers here, you just get a text-based listing, and you get a banner ad down here if you get the with offers product. You can buy it with offers, and if you can't stand the ads, by the way, you can actually pay to have the ads removed, and that brings it up to $139. And thanks to Barnes & Noble's recent price drop on their new Simple Nook Touch, that's actually more expensive now than Barnes & Noble's offering. The other place you'll see ads, by the way, is the screensaver. Instead of seeing dead authors, you will see various ads for Oil of Olay, the latest Twilight movie, and sometimes really good discounts on products from Amazon, so that can be useful. If you see an offer you like, you can tell the Kindle to email it to your official email address that you use with Amazon services. Here we have it next to what's now called the Kindle keyboard, or the 3rd generation Kindle. And you can see it's obviously a bit smaller, though it's not any thinner. It's actually a teeny bit thicker. Kindle with keyboard has, obviously, the keyboard, and it has page turn buttons on both sides, so for those of you who don't like to touch the screen for whatever reason, well, there you go. That's an improvement. Side view here, you can see the Kindle keyboard actually is a little bit thinner. And the Kindle keyboard has its big speaker grills up top here instead. Now we've got it next to the Sony Reader PRS-T1. This is Sony's latest e-ink reader. It's $149. And you can see the difference in user interface right away. We've got book covers here, the thing I've been most recently reading, stuff that I recently added, and a touch access to all functions on instead of just hitting the menu key and going through a text-based listing, which is a little like using a mouse with DOS on the Kindle side. This is more friendly. This is what the all books view looks like here. You can get a list-based view on the Sony as well. I'm sure many of you have watched our Nook Simple Touch review, and you've seen the graphical user interface on that, which is also very pleasing and easy to use. And now we've got here next to the Kindle Fire on the left, which is an LCD reader and much more. It is much more of a multimedia device versus the Kindle Touch being primarily just a book reader. And you can see the difference in thickness and size overall. Obviously the Kindle Fire is going to be bigger. It has a 7-inch screen versus the 6-inch display. And by the way, here's one of those offers you can see here. When it goes to sleep, you're going to get ads. So as I said, this costs $99 with offers. It's $139 without offers. So you're going to pay $40 more if you don't want to see those ads. And there's a 3G version, which is $139 with offers and $189 if you don't want to see ads on the 3G version. And the 3G is for downloading books. And AT&T provides the 3G service. You don't have to pay them anything. It's included with the use of the Kindle as always. So how do you navigate around this? If you want to read one of the books that are right here, you simply tap on the book to continue reading it. You can search your Kindle right here. Here's quick access to the store. And to do most anything else, you're going to hit the menu button and you get a pop-up here. You can control your wireless. Again, shop in the Kindle store. View your archived items, create a collection, sync your Kindle and go to experimental, which is where other features live. For some reason, the web browser is still in the experimental section, even though it's been there pretty much since day one with Kindles, and this is where the music player is. It is an MP3 player. It doesn't play other formats, does not play M4A iTunes format, for example, so you're going to need to put things in MP3. And it's a pretty basic player. You can see the interface here because we had something playing. And indeed, the speakers do make sound. And you can play that in the background while you're doing other things like reading or visiting the web. And of course, it plays Audible books as well. And we have text-to-speech feature here, still exists, and we can check out the web browser, which is a basic WebKit web browser, which isn't bad at all. It's just that given the e-ink refresh rates, it's not exactly the same experience you'll see on the Kindle Fire by any means. And you can scroll through and you can see how it refreshes. You just tap on hyperlinks. So this is much easier to navigate than the Kindle keyboard where you're constantly using the D-pad, and if you've got 20 things listed on a page, that's an awful lot of clicking to do. So this is an improvement. There is no accelerometer and there is no landscape mode on this. This is a very strange thing that the landscape mode is gone. No landscape for PDFs, no landscape for ebooks, no landscape for the web browser. Now, for most of you who just read straight novels, you could probably care less whether there's a landscape view. But for those who do want to read PDFs or use the web browser, it's kind of a bummer. It's a strange omission. I hope that Amazon does add that at some point. To go back home at any point from whatever you're doing, you just hit the home button. And if we take a look at the store interface, again, this is something that's much easier to navigate with a touchscreen. You're not D-padding everywhere. And we've got the usual text-based listings up top and a couple of popular books featured as covers here. Just tap on something you're interested in. Obviously, if you want to buy it, you can do that, and you can get a free sample, and you can add it to your wish list. Now, if you want to search for something, you use the on-screen keyboard. Likewise, if you're going to make notes, you're going to use this on-screen keyboard. And it uses partial refresh, so it's nice you don't see the screen jumping all over the place. And we've got some suggestions that pop up immediately. If you like one of the suggestions, you just tap on it, it'll take you there. So that's the shopping experience. How about books? Since this is pretty much about books, that's the point of e-ink. There's no backlighting here. You need to use ambient room lighting or a book light to read with this, but that means there's no backlight, there's no glare per se, there's no refresh to tire your eyes. Very easy on the eyes. Perfect for text. And you can either tap. There's a small zone here for going back. Large zone on this side is for going forward, since most times most of us go forward in books. And if you tap up here, you can bring up a menu where you can change your fonts. Access the MP3 player, by the way, since we've got that going, and go to Cover, Beginning, Table of Contents, and our page location. And if you want to change your fonts, you can see the options here. You've got many different font sizes. Basic for the font itself, regular condenser sans serif font. Spacing for line and words per line. So pretty basic stuff for formatting. Text is clear and sharp. This to me looks just every bit as good as the 4th generation Kindle non-touch and the Kindle 3 keyboard. And it's competitive with the Sony reader too in terms of text. Now it's hard to do an exact comparison because they don't use the same fonts in this case, but we'll give it a go. I would say the Sony looks a little bit whiter for the background, but the Kindle has slightly darker text in part because the font it's using is a fairly heavy font. As always, the Kindle supports side loading of books. These need to be in Amazon format or Mobi format. This does not do EPUBs. Public libraries now have Amazon format library books to lend, so you can take those out. And pretty much for shopping, you are stuck with the Amazon store. Not that that's such a bad thing. They have a huge selection and their prices are very competitive, but you can't go to Kobo Books, for example, or Barnes & Noble and buy a book and load it on this unless you're well versed with breaking DRM and using apps like Calibre to convert file formats, that is. Under reading options, you have annotation backup. Because we make annotations, they can be backed up to Amazon servers. You can turn popular highlights on and off for that social reading feature. Public notes, if you make notes and somebody's following you on AmazonKindle.com, they can see your notes if you like. You can turn that off. And page refresh. This does that partial page refresh thing where it doesn't do a full refresh every page turn. That's to make page turns quicker so you don't see that kind of flash to black. But if you find that there's too much artifacting on the screen and you don't like that, you can actually set it to refresh every single page. And here you can get access to your social networks like Facebook and Twitter, so you can share even more. Let's take a look at that page refresh one more time here. So this does a very good job. You really don't see much artifacting here. There's no little 5 o'clock shadow on the text. And there is no flash to black, you can see, either, which is nice. When we get to the 6th turn, we will have a flash to black. Now obviously with every subsequent page turn, before you reach that full refresh, you will get more and more artifacting, but still at this point we've gone several pages in and it's still pretty clear. And there was our full refresh. The US version of the Kindle comes with 2 dictionaries. You can use the Oxford Dictionary of English, my preferred one, but there's also the new Oxford American Dictionary on board. And like all Kindles, you can get wireless daily delivery of newspapers, mostly text-based. They have some grayscale images in them, but newspapers, magazines, that kind of thing. In addition to any books that you purchase, you can get them wirelessly downloaded over Wi-Fi. Or if you have the 3G model, you can do that over 3G as well. And this can also sync, as you saw, your last read position, so you can switch between this and your smartphone, for example, or even your computer, and have it pick up right where you left off in the book. If you want to look up a word in the dictionary, just tap and hold on it. And there we have our definition of and you can see the full description. You can add a note and you can do highlighting. And how do you highlight? You don't do anything first, you just press and hold on the passage that you wish to highlight, drag your finger, and once you're done, you have the option to highlight, add a note, or share it. And if you want to add a note, there's what you see. Save your note, and you can see the little one there that says, guess what, there's a note. And if you tap on it, you can see what it was you said. The Kindle Touch has 4 gigs of internal storage. About 3 gigs are available for your use. There is no expansion slot, but that will hold a lot of books. And for something that is primarily an ebook reader, that's a good amount of space. We'll take a look at a PDF right now. First we're going to look at a user guide, something that's fairly graphical. And it's fairly quick with the page turns. Now, PDFs tend to be fairly complex, and that can be a challenge to turn pages. If you tap up here, once again you can see the music player option is still showing down here, and there's really not too much else. You can adjust the contrast in PDFs, so right now we're at the middle setting, so you can play with that to suit your eyes. And there is no landscape mode, so you're going to be reading like this. And it's a little teeny. It's readable, but it is teeny. When the text is a little too small to read, you can double tap to zoom in on it and to remove the margins, basically, too. And you tap again, and you can get, well, pretty absurdly large if you want. You can also pinch zoom in PDFs. Now the problem is, you see we got text clipping here because once again it's doing that blow up feature, so it's not like you can, just because the text is big enough to read it easily, you're going to have to go back and forth to finish the end of a line. But the feature is there. I would say that this is not the ideal screen size. At 6 inches, though, for reading PDFs, obviously it becomes very awkward. You're either zooming and scrolling around a lot, or you're looking at really tiny text. Amazon does offer PDF textbooks, for example, and I would still choose a Kindle DX or a non-e-ink reader to look at those. Let's take a look at something that's laid out primarily as a book, not as a manual, so therefore it's mostly just text, to see how that is. Well, that would be pretty darn hard to see as default view. And if we tap in, it's still pretty darn small. It fills the screen much better, but some public libraries also offer PDFs for download, and yeah, it's not the most ideal thing. E-ink readers typically have really good battery life, and Amazon claims that you should be able to go for about a month if you read a half an hour a day, which is perhaps a little bit lower than some competing brand's claims, but at any rate, you're going to probably go for weeks before you have to charge this guy, which is nice. You can actually go away for a week vacation and not bring your charger with you. This does charge over USB, by the way, and it does not come with the charger in the box. Amazon sells the charger separately, so you just charge it over USB. It takes about 3 or 4 hours to charge it up if it's pretty low on battery. So that's the new Kindle Touch. It's definitely an improvement for those who don't do a lot of note-taking over the Kindle keyboard. If you do a lot of note-taking, you're probably still going to want that hardware keyboard. But for those of you who just felt like it was an appendage that was hanging down there that you rarely made use of, this is certainly a more pleasant and expedient way to navigate the device. As we said, we do wish that Amazon would have done something more graphical. The user interface, this seems pretty much like a touchscreen, IR-based touchscreen, by the way. There's no added layer on top of this. But a touchscreen just kind of glommed on top of your regular old Kindle. But it's easy enough to use, it's straightforward. And we would definitely recommend this over the $79 Kindle. For $20 more, you get the music player capability, you get some speakers built in, you can play Audible books, you get more storage. And if you're looking for something much more multimedia oriented, play videos and that kind of thing, obviously the Kindle Fire is probably more of your kind of thing. But if you're just looking for an easy on the eyes, long battery life, lightweight device for reading books, then this is a good choice. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Visit our website to read the full review, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.